If you're just joining us, well, you've missed out on a hell of an hour, and you're going to want to go over to KUDO1080.com and podcast this hour because lots of information went out. Basically, there was a meeting of the Backbone Group that happened on Monday. The Backbone Group is made up of Wally Hickel, Dave Gotze, all kinds of high-rolling, high-hitting politicos and others, Vic Fisher, lots who have come together as a pro-Alaska group and what would be the best for our state. And, they had really backed the Alaska Gasline Port Authority's bid for AGIA very much because here's 6,000 reasons right now that this matters to you. 6,000 high-paying jobs. That's what this would have provided. Just fresh out of the chute, 6,000 high-paying jobs. So it kind of came out like, well, why the hell didn't the governor support this Alaska Gasline Port Authority? Why didn't they support this? What's the deal with being late with your information? What happened here? Well, it came out that they basically got shanghaied by another company that they had partnered with. And I'm thrilled that they are able to talk a little bit, hopefully. Bill Walker, who is the project manager and general counsel to AGPA and has been there since its inception in 1999, is able to join us right now. Hi, Mr. Walker. Thank you so much.
Hi, Shannyn.
So,
but let me just explain briefly what happened, if you'd like.
Certainly.
We're a big supporter of the AGIA process. We think it's a quantum improvement over the Stranded Gas Act process, and we're very supportive of it. We testified on its behalf. And so in about June of this year, we began to put together the pieces of a consortium. We met with a large pipeline company down south, and they were very anxious to be part of the project and sort of wanted to take it from there and do it on their own. And we said, no, we need to add in the LNG piece to it. So we met with an LNG company, so the two of those entities got together and had meetings, and they wanted access to our Bechtel data, which was appropriate because they wanted to update it. It would be a couple $1 million probably to update what we had to make it ready for the AGIA bid. And then in August, they said, it probably makes more sense if we just proceed without the Port Authority. And we said, that's not our first choice, but our goal is to have a pipeline built when our goal isn't necessarily to promote the Port Authority. So if that's what it takes for these two large companies to proceed, I guess that's what it takes under one condition, actually several conditions. But the most important was that if you don't bid, we get the data back, access to our data and your updated data, which you've done, the updated information you've done. And so that was the arrangement that they went forward on. Was
this a company that you approached, or did they approach you?
We approached them.
Okay.
Yeah, we approached them, and in full disclosure, they said up front their biggest customers are the North Slope producers, and we understood that going in, and we said that's fine. I think there's no problem with that.
Well, yeah, because they're going to be working with them eventually anyway.
Sure. So we didn't see any problem with that.
Okay.
So in mid-October, is that the pipeline company had chosen to withdraw from the consortium, and I called them immediately and asked them if it was because of the project economics, and they said absolutely not. It was just a business decision that they had to do. So I said, well, that's fine, and I said we need to arrange to pick up the updated bid data and whatnot, which actually wasn't quite completed yet. And they said, well, no, they actually said they wouldn't provide that to us. So the LNG company said it was sort of questionable whether they're going to bid or not bid. It was sort of on again, off again. And what concerned me at one point, they said they called me and they said, one concept we're looking at is possibly just let AGIA fail and then see what the options are after that. And which I informed them that was totally unacceptable to us, and as we will definitely be submitting a bid.
So they at that point had said that they would not give you your original information from 2000 and 2005 back with partially completed updates. They would not give you that information back, and that they were not going to put in for a bid because they had decided at that point the best thing to do was to let AGIA flop and then see what kind of sweet deal came later?
It did. Now, we could have had access to our old data, but our old data didn't do us much good at that stage of the game because to get somebody to update it would be there was just not enough time. I mean, we just couldn't and we would have to. I mean, it's quite complicated how we updated our original data. So then they contacted a few days later and said, we've just changed our mind. We're going to go ahead and bid. The LNG company said, we're going to go ahead and bid. And they went through all that, explained why they're going to bid, and then they asked if we were going to still submit a bid. I said, absolutely. You bet we're going to submit a bid. And so we did, and what we had to do when we submitted our bid, we had to reference the material that we anticipate they would be submitting with their bid, which was basically our data updated. And that was the only thing we could do. And so we submitted our bid timely, and when we got the sections of the bid that required the technical data from Bechtel, we referenced the other bidder. And that was fine until on the day of the bid submittal date. Afterwards, we discovered they didn't submit a bid. So we were sort of left stranded in that regard. So at that point,
So my understanding then is that when you put in your bid in the section that it would have said, what this project costs are, Bechtel, having done all that research for you and for this other LNG company, basically in that spot you said, see other companies' information on this. They're submitting.
Yeah, we reference another bid. That
right. Okay.
Exactly
okay.
Right.
And then but then when they're like, okay, we'd love to reference that. However, they didn't send in a bid at all.
Right. We had no notice, prior notice they were not going to submit a bid. So after that, we had so now what? And we knew that, of course, we became extremely aggressive against both of those entities at this point because of what had happened as far as getting access to the data. We had received the request from the state on December 11th, we, along with all the other bidders, basically requesting supplemental information. At that point, we concluded our negotiations and it obtained the data that we should have had initially. We received that at 5 o'clock Houston time on December 14th, which is a Friday. So we had it transferred up here both by somebody we had down there to fly it up and also to have electronically transferred, so that we began working that night, Friday night, and again it was due Tuesday at 2 o'clock on the supplemental information. So what we did in our supplemental filing, we basically took the new data we did not have access to for our original bid and incorporated that into our supplemental filing and timely filed that by the deadline of 2 o'clock on the 18th of December. And so basically what we ended up doing is having to basically revise our original bid with our supplemental filing. But we had all the data in our supplemental filing that covered all the necessities for the bid. And so what was determined is that because it was determined that there were significant or material changes in our supplemental filing, that they couldn't consider that, and they would need to just refer to our original bid, which was obviously missing the data that was withheld from us. So that's a big disappointment to not just the Port Authority. Port Authority is a nonprofit entity. This is for the for the good of Alaska. We're trying to do it for. So it was a big disappointment to be out of the AGIA process, and we sort of found ourselves for a while. As we are now, somewhat like ConocoPhillips in some way. I never thought I'd ever say that, but somewhere in the way that they're outside of the AGIA process by their own decision, and we're sort of out based upon nothing wrong with what the state, no wrongdoing in the state, obviously, but just the circumstances of it became pretty evident that someone didn't want us to bid. I did go and reread the article entitled "Bank on Mid-America," Mid-American, dated August 12th in the Petroleum News, which talks about some sort of alarming quotes now by, and reading after what happened to us, by Bob Sokol, the president of Mid-America, but talking about the kind of pressure that they were under. In fact, he wouldn't in that article, you may have mentioned this earlier, wouldn't even mention who their partners were because they didn't want them to be subject to the same kind of pressure they were under. So
right, that was David Sokol, and he said, in the light of the pressure that's put on us, we think we are doing our potential partners a favor by not identifying them because of this subjection to all the pressure Mid-American had been under. My guest right now is Bill Walker. He's the general counsel for AGPA, the Alaska Gasline Port Authority, which, from the sounds of this story, the AGIA process, the bidding process, has been shanghaied.